factory nightmare. I had always dreamt of landing a stable job that could support me and my family. When I finally received the call from Green Tech Industries offering me a position at their factory, I felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. The factory was known for its high productivity and rigorous work environment, but the paycheck was too good to pass up. Little did I know my first day would be a harrowing experience I would never forget. I woke up at 5 a.m., 2 hours before my shift started. I wanted to make sure I arrived early to make a good impression. As I put on my new work boots and uniform, I felt a sense of pride mixed with a flutter of anxiety in my stomach. I kissed my family goodbye, reassuring them that everything would be fine. The factory was a massive structure, with towering smokestacks and the constant hum of machinery that could be heard from the parking lot. I parked my car and walked towards the entrance, my heart pounding. I was greeted by a stern-looking man in his mid-50s who introduced himself as Mr. Thompson, the shift supervisor. "You're the new guy, right? Jack?" Mr. Thompson's voice was gruff and impatient. "Yes, sir. Jack Reynolds," I replied, extending my hand. Mr. Thompson ignored the handshake and handed me a clipboard with several forms. "Sign these, and then follow me. We don't have time for pleasantries." I quickly signed the documents and followed Mr. Thompson into the factory. The interior was a maze of conveyor belts, assembly lines, and loud machinery. Workers in safety gear moved with precision and speed, barely glancing up as I walked past. "This is your workstation," Mr. Thompson said, pointing to a large, intimidating machine. "It's a hydraulic press. Your job is to operate it safely and efficiently. Any mistakes, and you could cause a lot of damage." I nodded, trying to absorb everything. The machine was enormous, with a series of buttons and levers that looked complex. Mr. Thompson gave me a rushed training session, explaining the basics and emphasizing the importance of safety. "Remember, one wrong move and you could lose a limb or worse," Mr. Thompson said before walking away to oversee other workers. My nerves were on edge as I started my shift. The noise of the factory was deafening, and the heat from the machinery made me sweat profusely. I carefully followed the instructions, double-checking every step. Despite my best efforts, my hands trembled, and I could feel the eyes of my co-workers on me, silently judging. Midway through the morning, my anxiety got the best of me. I accidentally pressed the wrong button, causing the machine to jam. The loud clanging noise drew immediate attention, and Mr. Thompson stormed over, his face red with anger. "What the hell did you do, Reynolds?" he barked. I'm sorry, sir. I made a mistake," I stammered, my face flushed with embarrassment. "Fix it, now," Mr. Thompson yelled. I tried to unjam the machine, but my hands were shaking so badly that I struggled to get a grip on the tools. The pressure was overwhelming, and I could feel my co-workers' stares burning into my back. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to free the jam and get the machine running again, but the damage was done. The workflow had been disrupted, and Mr. Thompson was furious. During lunch break, I sat alone in the cafeteria, my hands still trembling. I could hear the whispers and see the sideways glances from my co-workers. I felt like an outsider, an intruder in their well-oiled machine. After lunch, I returned to my workstation, determined to do better. I focused intently on my tasks, trying to block out the noise and distractions. The hours dragged on, and my muscles ached from the constant tension. As the end of my shift approached, I allowed myself a small sigh of relief. I had managed to avoid any further mistakes, but the day had taken a toll on me. Just when I thought I was in the clear, disaster struck. One of the metal parts slipped from my grip and fell into the machine, causing it to malfunction. The press came down with a loud crash, and the entire assembly line ground to a halt. Panic surged through me as I realized the severity of my mistake. Mr. Thompson was there in an instant, his face a mask of rage. "Reynolds, what did you do this time?" "I'm sorry, sir. It was an accident," I said, my voice trembling. "Accidents like this cost time and money. Do you have any idea how much damage you've caused?" Mr. Thompson shouted. Before I could respond, the factory manager arrived, his expression stern. "What's going on here?" "Reynolds here just caused a major malfunction," Mr. Thompson explained, glaring at me. The manager looked at me, his eyes cold. "This is unacceptable. We can't afford mistakes like this. You'll need to come to my office after your shift." I felt a sinking feeling in my stomach. I knew I was in serious trouble. I spent the rest of the shift trying to fix the machine, but the damage was extensive. By the time the bell rang, signaling the end of the day, I was exhausted and demoralized. In the manager's office, I sat nervously across from the stern-looking man. "I'm sorry for the trouble I caused," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The manager sighed. "I understand that it's your first day, but this kind of error can't happen again. We have strict protocols for a reason. You're lucky that no one got hurt." I nodded, feeling the weight of my failure. "I'll do better, I promise." The manager's expression softened slightly. "Everyone has a rough start. We'll give you another chance, but you'll be reassigned to a different task until you get more comfortable." Relief washed over me, and I thanked the manager before leaving the office. As I walked out of the factory, I felt a mix of emotions. The day had been a nightmare, but I was grateful for the second chance. I resolved to work harder and prove myself. I returned home with the weight of the day still pressing on my shoulders, but I felt a spark of determination. I admitted that it had been tough, but I was committed to learning and adapting. My family reassured me, reminding me of my strength and resilience. Over the next few weeks, I worked diligently to improve. I asked questions, took notes, and practiced until I felt more confident in my abilities. My coworkers began to warm up to me, offering tips and advice. Even Mr. Thompson's attitude softened as I proved my dedication and resilience. One evening, as I was finishing my shift, Mr. Thompson approached me. "Reynolds, I wanted to apologize for being so hard on you. This job isn't easy, and I respect the effort you've put in." I was taken aback by the unexpected apology. "Thank you, sir. I appreciate it." Mr. Thompson nodded. "Keep up the good work. You're doing well." My heart swelled with pride. I had faced my fears and overcome the challenges of my first day. The factory was no longer a place of dread, but a place where I belonged. I knew there would be more obstacles ahead, but I was ready to face them with confidence and determination. 2 months had passed since that dreadful first day, and I had settled into my role at GreenTech Industries. I had learned the intricacies of my job and built a rapport with my colleagues. My initial fear had transformed into a quiet confidence. The factory, once a place of terror, had become a familiar environment where I felt competent and valued. One day, Mr. Thompson called me into his office. My stomach knotted with anxiety, fearing that I had done something wrong again. However, his expression was not one of anger but of seriousness. "Reynolds, I have an important task for you," he began. "We've got a new machine coming in, and I need someone to oversee its installation and training. You've shown a lot of improvement, and I think you're ready for this responsibility." I was stunned. This was a huge step up and a sign of trust. "Thank you, sir. I'll do my best." The new machine arrived the following week. It was a state-of-the-art assembly unit, designed to increase productivity. My job was to ensure its smooth installation and train the staff on its operation. It was a daunting task, but I was determined to succeed. The first few days were challenging. The machine was complex, and I spent long hours studying its manual and working alongside the installation team. My colleagues, some of whom had doubted my abilities, now looked to me for guidance. It was a strange yet satisfying feeling. One evening, as I was going over some last-minute details, I thought about how far I had come since that first day. The fear and anxiety that once consumed me had been replaced with a sense of accomplishment. I realized that the initial struggle had shaped me into a more resilient person. The factory, once a place of nightmares, had become a place where I felt capable and confident. The new machine was finally up and running. Training the staff was a challenging but rewarding experience. I felt a sense of pride as I watched my colleagues adapt to the new technology. The factory's productivity improved, and I knew I had played a significant role in that achievement. Reflecting on my journey, I understood that the initial nightmare of my first day had been a crucial part of my growth. The fear and mistakes had pushed me to learn and adapt, ultimately leading to success. I had transformed from a nervous newcomer into a trusted member of the team. The factory was no longer a place of dread.